Hello and welcome to another lesson from me, the history tutor. And today we're looking at the 1918 to 1939 AQA history course. And we're looking at the write an account question, often a confusing skill. And we'll be revising our content on the Treaty of Versailles. So thank you for joining me. And as I said, in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the Treaty of Versailles and revising the key content. Particularly, we're going to focus on that phrase of the peacemakers and what the peacemakers wanted, and maybe what did it actually achieve in terms of its punishments for Germany. And that means we're going to revise some of those key clauses and key actions that the Allies led, or the Big Three led, at the Treaty of Versailles as the peacemakers. But firstly, before we move on to our writing account skills, let's have a little recap quiz. So here is our quiz. Take a look at these questions, 8 factual questions to test your understanding of the Treaty of Versailles. Now, maybe you're looking at them and wondering, well, I don't know any of these. So do have a look at my revision video in my history tutor area on YouTube, and there's a full video reminding you of the Big Three, what they wanted, the clauses of the Treaty of Versailles, and also how the nations reacted, in particular Germany, to the Treaty of Versailles. And then come back here and try this quiz, see how well you've learnt the information. So time for a pause, have a look through them and see what you can remember. Right, so you've had a little bit of a go. So here are the answers. Name the Prime Minister of France during Treaty of Versailles. It's Georges Clemenceau. Name the territory given back to France that has been taken away by Germany by the 1871 war, and that was Alsace-Lorraine. So one of those terms of the treaty, huge amounts of land taken away from Germany and given to other countries. How many homes were destroyed during the First World War that obviously France wanted reparations for? 300,000. What was the idea that people should live in their own homeland? Self-determination, one of those 14 points of Woodrow Wilson, one of his key aims to get the 14 points across. How much was the reparation bill set at in 1921? At £6,600 million. What percentage of German land was lost by Treaty of Versailles? Well, 10%-ish, but I do see examples in exam papers, 10 to 15%. Those figures are useful and good to use. Name the country that was created for the peoples of the Balkans. So Yugoslavia, that's the countries of what we call modern Serbia and Croatia, etc. Now, obviously, you might be thinking, well, is that self-determination, all these different countries merged into one? And that might be part of your interpretation to consider just how much was their self-determination. And then Germany was blamed for the war with Article 231, which of course meant it had to pay for the damages. So that's obviously a clause that they disliked quite a lot. So we've got an idea of testing you there about who the Big Three are, what they wanted, some of the different clauses of the treaty. Okay, so now let's have a look at some of those top grade 9 skills with the write an account question. So here is the question. Write an account of the problems facing the peacemakers in 1919. Okay, so this is, if you're interpreting this correctly, you're probably thinking, well, this is a question about the juggling the different aims of the different peacemakers in 1919 as they started to set up the Treaty of Versailles. And you'd be right. Now, peacemakers can be a little bit of a confusing term. This does just mean the countries at the Treaty of Versailles and their attempts to make peace. It is as simple as that. So don't get too confused about that. Right, so have a look over the question then. What do you think is the key criteria you need to do? What are the skills you need to show? Maybe come up with a list of ideas in your mind. What would be the success criteria for this question? Okay, so had a bit of a think. So here is some of the things you need to think about this question. So firstly, it's an explain question. Write an account is a bit of a confusing phrase. So do just think of the word explain. So you've got to explain 2 points for 8 marks. Now, the write an account bit is fairly useful, as I'll talk about in a moment, but generally just think of this as an explain question. Explain using our normal Peel paragraphs. Point, evidence, explain, link. Make sure we're giving evidence explained by consequences and impacts. Okay, so this is where the writing account bit is useful. So we need to give an example, okay, in our answer, in the example phase, but then we are explaining the impact. So it's still a little bit like a story. So one event happens, then another event follows because of this. Okay, so there's a problem that Peacemaker faces. This is the impact, and we explain. And we should try to have a wider link somewhere in our answer to get to the top band of marks. Okay, no conclusion needed. All right. So now it's a time to have a think. So what were the problems? So we're thinking, what were the problems facing? Explain the problems facing the peacemakers. So therefore, we need to identify the problems first. So what were the problems? Now, again, you're welcome to pause me, have a think, or you're just welcome to listen to me as we talk about it. If you're revising, successfully, it is good for you to have a think about this. It's likely this is not the question in the exam, as this has been in a recent exam paper, but this is going to be a good revision tool for you. So what were the problems? So some people expected punishments for Germany. Okay, so there's an expectation of punishing Germany. Other people did not expect that. Maybe Germany did not expect punishments. The leaders wanted different things from the treaty. They all wanted different things. So France wanted to punish Germany. America wanted peace. Britain wanted a bit of both, wanted peace and economic development, and wanted some punishments. Maybe Germany expected a fair peace. After all, they had removed their Kaiser, set up a democracy, accepted the 14 points. They expected, a relative amount of peace and help. Germany expected fair peace, as I just said. Some people wanted a peaceful world created. That's the 14 points. That's what the Americans wanted. And there were socioeconomic problems in Europe needed solving. There's the Spanish flu. There's obviously a lack of trade going on at the time. There's the blockades of all the different countries because of the war. So Germany was obviously very heavily blockaded by the British blockade, lacked medicine, lacked food. Then we've got, of course, Britain had been blockaded by the U-boats as well, so they were lacking food to some extent as well. So there were all sorts of problems around Europe at the time. So all of these need solving, but which is the most important? Who is going to manage to push across their ideas more than somebody else? No, these are the questions you've got to sort of weigh up. Okay, so let's choose a couple of them and then give it a go, because we need two of these to explain, and then we can set out our answer. So I've gone with the leaders wanted different things from the treaty, and Germany expected a fair peace, because I think there's more things to explain around these, and they're easier examples. So I've listed some examples, some ideas underneath. Have a look at them. Can you see which ones would attach to which? We'll move them around in a moment on the screen. Which ones would attach to which idea as a plan and a set of ideas? Okay, so maybe have a pause and see if you can work it out. Okay, so here's what I'd think, and the ideas we could use for each answer as a sort of bit of a plan. So the leaders wanted different things. So obviously, Clemenceau wanted to punish Germany harshly, destroy Germany as a threat to France in the future. Britain wanted a strong Germany to trade with. Woodrow Wilson wanted the 14 points and peace. And some countries wanted large reparations to rebuild, particularly France and Belgium. Germany expected a fair peace. It had agreed to the 14 points and to remove the Kaiser. Germany needed help. There's lots of disease, revolts, economic problems. Germany is now a democratic government. They had removed the Kaiser. They expected a fair peace. So now we've got some ideas. So you can see there's 3 or 4 ideas for each one now. So that's plenty to help us talk about an answer. So how is this answer going to look then? So you'll remember from other videos that we have a clear writing frame. We make a point. One problem facing peacemakers was, just repeat the question back and set out an argument. Give some evidence. For example, explain this caused problems for peacemakers because, so that's where we're going to give our impact knowledge. Most of our knowledge is going to be in that section. Our evidence is going to be about a sentence. Our explains are going to be 1 or 2 sentences with lots of knowledge of impacts. And then we could think about it furthermore and explain a bit more widely if we can. Okay, so let's go through this together then. So you're welcome to write this out with me and sort of try your own answer. Or think about your own answer, or you're welcome to just listen. But at each stage, you can pause and have a think about it. So one problem facing the peacemakers was, so what do you think would be a good starting sentence here? So here's what I've gone for. So one problem facing the peacemakers was the big 3 leaders all wanted different things from the peace treaties. That's quite a nice, easy thing to say. That's the one we said. That's the first example we were talking about. all the leaders wanted different things, and that leads to a nice, easy example. So maybe we could do a little summary of what one or two of them wanted that caused a problem in our example. So have a think, what would you put as the example? So here's mine. So, for example, Clemenceau of France wished to destroy Germany, whilst Britain and USA wanted a fairer settlement. So again, I've just tried to keep it to one sentence, one simple sentence, and now I'm going to explain the impact of this. So this caused problems for peacemakers because, okay, so think back to that knowledge we looked at. What could be an impact bit of knowledge here that we could give as a consequence, as the problem that emerges because of this? So here's what I've gone for. This caused problems for the peacemakers because the French wanted large repression to help to rebuild France and wanted to destroy the German army to stop future invasions, whilst Britain and the USA wanted a strong Germany to trade with and did not wish to punish them heavily as Germany had removed the Kaiser. The harsh settlement therefore led to disappointment in the USA, and their Congress refused to accept the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, so now we've got some knowledge there that they fell out with each other. USA doesn't accept Treaty of Versailles. Britain and France and USA disagree with each other. And you can see visually there that that's a lot more in the impact section than there is in the evidence section. Okay, now you might be worrying about, oh, there's not many facts there. Okay, there's only really that the keyword Kaiser and America didn't accept Treaty of Versailles. However, there's a lot of understanding there, and you don't always have to have facts in your answer if you're showing a huge level of understanding of the issue. And that's what this shows, a real understanding of the issue. Okay, so maybe we can think wider. Is there a furthermore here? Maybe there's a long-term consequence. Maybe there's a consequence of another country having a problem. So let's see what we can come up with. So furthermore, the different ideas of the Big Three led to problems with the reorganization of Europe. As the USA wanted self-determination, while France wanted strong nations to surround Germany, this led to the unsatisfactory creation of Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. Well, hopefully they won't be too upset if I said the unsatisfactory creation of. Unsatisfactory in a way that it was not self-determination. And clearly, like history has shown that those nations have broken up and, that they were problematic over time. But that wasn't, self-determination as America had visioned it. They wanted a full self-determination of nations. So that gives you a sort of general idea of a good paragraph. So now, obviously, try a second idea yourself. So we had the idea earlier that Germany wanted a fair treaty and thought they deserved a fair treaty. Have a go yourself now. You can flick back through the video and find the examples for that. Okay, well, I hope you found that video useful. Looking at the Treaty of Versailles and particularly the aims and the problems around the Big Three and what they wanted is quite a useful thing to look at. I also think for you, think about the Treaty of Versailles and its impact over time as well. That's really useful. Have a think about a write an account question about the long-term impact of the terms of the treaty and why the terms of the treaty caused further tension, particularly going into the 1920s and 30s. That'd be a useful thing to do. Right, well, I hope that you found it useful. Do look out for more videos soon. It's bye-bye from me.